Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of Reshape Hospitality with Tech, the podcast where we explore how technology is changing the hospitality industry. I am Maria, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host Kazim. In today's episode, we have the pleasure to introduce a very special guest who is an exceptional industry leader in the hospitality industry. She is Anita Lane. Welcome and thank you so much for joining our podcast.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to be here. What a special treat to get to spend some time with you all today.
Tell us more about you. How did you started your career and what inspired you to pursue your career in the hospitality industry?
Sure, happy to share a little bit. So I stumbled into hospitality through accounting. I actually took a job in a hotel as a payroll clerk, and before you knew it, I was a hotel controller in a full service hotel. I grew up with some really amazing. I had a wonderful general manager, a wonderful director of sales, a really great brand in a downtown hotel in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so I spent 12 years with that company, really learning the business and understanding, the backside of hospitality through accounting, which is a great way to learn it, to be honest with you. And then fell in love and decided that I really, really loved the people side of the business. And so stepped out on faith and decided to apply for. I sent my resume and applied blindly to an ad and ended up going into my first Hampton hotel as a general manager. I had a really wonderful owner that took a chance on me and said he was looking for basically a controller with personality, and I felt like I could measure up to that. And that was in May of '08. You all probably know that in December of '08 we were in a recession, and that was for a very young, very shiny GM trying to figure out her way through things. That was a great learning experience as well. So learned a lot about selling, learned a lot about
Mhm.
my dedication to being able to care for my people by making sure that we were achieving our financial goals. Really,
Mhm.
really got to be a great operator at a really crucial time in the hotel business, and had some wonderful folks that supported me along the way. So, and then from there, I stayed with that company for 12 years. And then during COVID, it felt like it was time to grow again. I had the pleasure of helping that hotel company sell some assets and buy some assets and move some things around, and really helped raise a family of hotels. But I think like many of us do, you just want to keep growing. Consider myself a lifelong learner, so I really wanted
Mhm.
to continue to grow. So the last few years, I've taken my career on a bit of a journey. I have been a project manager in a owner-owned condominium resort for a year, and then from there went back into hotels. Wasn't expecting to do that. Thought I was going to go a different direction, but went back into hotels through a really great management company in Tennessee. And now I work for Hotel Equities, which is a wonderful hotel company. We're based out of Alpharetta, and they've been very good to me. I've been with them for a little over a year and really enjoying what I'm doing. I have assets, South Carolina, Georgia, kind of all over. But learning a lot, and they're a very technology focused. They're people focused first, but also understand the importance of having technology and making things easier for our GMs, and trying to use technology to make our lives
Mhm.
more streamlined and give people back some of their time. We talk a little bit about that with our company. So yeah, so I work for Hotel Equities and love what I do and love the people part of what I do probably the most, but understand why it's all important and why it all works together. So.
It sounds like you have achieved remarkable success on your journey. As you have said, you work in hotel equities. As a regional director of operationals, could you tell us more about hotel equities and currently how many properties they are managing?
So, it seems like it changes on a pretty regular basis. We have been very blessed to have a lot of folks come to the table and want to partner with Hotel Equities, and created. I think Hotel Equities does a beautiful job of allowing companies to retain their culture. and truthfully they're people, and yet we come alongside and create strategic alignments. So for me, I jokingly I tell my team it's not an and or, it's a with. And so I think it's very important for us to be that strategic partner and to allow folks to bring in what they need to bring in, but also give them the infrastructure to really grow and be part of a great company. So I'm very
Mm-hmm.
proud to be here. We have currently um, over 200 hotels. I don't know the magic number. I focus on my assets. I know that I have 14 of them, and so those are really what I focus on. But we have over 200 hotels right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see us continue to grow through the end of the year. And what a great company to work for, and what a great way to do business. I think it's important to be creative in business and to think about different ways to do things. And so yeah, it's been fun and a big journey to be part of a big company at that level.
Be creative in the business. So, moving forward, I'm
Mhm.
interested to know more about the strategies that you guys are using to improve your hotel operations in terms of hotel staff and enhancing guest experience. I would love to know your insight on this.
Sure. So, one of the things I love about this company is that there's always talk around those things, around, um how do you serve the guest better? How are you? And I came to be part of this company because I there are just so many great brains, people that have been in the industry and led at a really high level for many, many years. One of the things I think is great is that there is it's a focus, as far as guest service. I was in a meeting earlier in the week where we talked about, our response time. Are we bringing, general managers to the table fast enough, and are we acclimating them to, our hotels? Are we hiring quick enough? Are we onboarding well? We challenge ourselves, and for me that's a little bit where technology comes in that it will allow you to improve the processes, and make you're more nimble, you're faster to do things when you have
Mhm.
those resources. My favorite new initiative that we just rolled out, and we're starting to see some good, is an initiative that allows for our employees to be tipped. So, for example, our housekeepers, we have a QR code where they can where a
Mhm.
guest can leave a tip. That's a platform called Grazi that we've been able to partner with, and I think they're tremendous. I love that. People don't carry cash anymore. So what's a technology driven way for me to put more money in my housekeepers' pockets? Well, there it was. And I think Hotel Equities does a really nice job at our corporate level. We have a lot of, I almost see it as a think tank of people sitting in that office trying to think about better ways to serve our team. And we truthfully know that if we serve our team's going to serve our guest even better, right? So I think it all kind of plays together, and we use that piece. We're very guest focused. We're very, very driven by our metrics. We have constant conversation. Our
Mhm.
president of our hotel operations does a beautiful job of creating what I would say, a culture of accountability, and
Mhm.
making sure that and not a fearful culture of accountability, not where you have to wake up and dread your life every day, but I think you feel comfortable. And it's funny, I, earlier had to send an email to a colleague today, and he asked me a kind of a challenging question, and I was able to be truthful and say, I don't think I have that figured out yet. And yet there'll be somebody in the room that will say, well, here, have you tried this? Or here, we have a platform for that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's great. I think you have to stay focused on the metrics though. I think if we stay focused on our people and we make their lives better, then our people are going to serve our guests better, and we're going to see really great results from that long term. I'm a big believer in building for long term. Setting that foundation and making sure that people are really building those building blocks and those bricks to go the distance. I don't want to lose people. It's really hard to find people in our business, so I don't want to see them cycle through and leave and go somewhere else. It sort
Mhm.
of breaks my heart when they do.
Yeah, it's amazing to know how your experiences directly contribute to supporting in hotel operations and making sure guests are satisfied. Previously, you have mentioned difficulties that you faced. So, could you please tell us more about that? How do you manage to overcome?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, the older I get and the longer I stay in this business, I would say self-awareness is super important. Being able to look in the mirror and say, "Hey, that didn't go as well as I would like for it to have gone." I think you have to challenge yourself. I also think you have to offer yourself a measure of grace and understand, where you sit in your set of circumstances. We're in a very people-y business, whether that be our guest or our owners or our stakeholders, our brand. So, what I do is try to really self-examine at the end of the day and kind of think about, what are the things that went really well and what are the things that I
Mm-hmm.
need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I, in turn, I have the true honor of leading 14 hotels, which right now almost all of them are filled with GMs. So, my team challenges me a little bit and I challenge them right back. So, I
Yeah.
think collaboration matters. Like if we choose to be in a
Exactly.
people business, we need to work with each other as a team. So we celebrate our successes,
Mm-hmm.
but we also take a hard look in the mirror and say, "Hey, we could do these things better." But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, you're not standing by yourself doing that. I really work hard to try to lead my team as a team so that they know that there are other resources. And if you're stumbling with something, somebody else might be stumbling with it. So I think self-awareness really matters. I think being able to turn it around and do something different, being a lifelong learner, pushing yourself to stop scrolling and start listening has been my sort of thing to do this year. I've been trying to listen to more Audible books and really push myself. It is so easy to get in that mindset of just, looking at other people's lives and doing watching what they're doing. Sometimes it's a little mindless, but I've found that if I'm intentional and I, spend a little more time, with those Audible books, and some of those are teaching me some really great lessons. So yeah, I, I think everything's supposed to teach us something, right? So you can't sink
Yeah.
down in it, and you can't let it own you. But you have to feel it. You have to work your way
Mm-hmm.
through it. And you have to really make sure that you understand what went well and what didn't go well. And then from there, I think you put together a plan and you try to do better.
Yeah, it's wonderful get to know about that.
Anita, what I would like to ask is, do you believe that the hospitality industry has changed rapidly in the last few years? Obviously, with time, everything changes, but do you think, especially after COVID, hospitality has undergone massive changes?
Yeah, I don't know anybody that does what we do that wouldn't see it that way, that wouldn't see that there have been massive changes, whether it be, travel patterns and trends and our guests and what our guests expect to the workforce and our stakeholders. And sort of that I definitely think COVID was a bit of a wake-up call for everyone. I'm an eternal optimist. I really, for the most part, I see things as positive a lot of the time, and I'm not ashamed of that. So I think the shakeup has been good. I think it's whether we wanted to or not, it forced us to look in the mirror and say, are we the kind of industry that we need to be, and are we doing the things well that we need to be doing? So yeah, I think there's been massive change in our industry, but I don't think change is necessarily bad. When I go back to me taking over a hotel in a recession, I had a plan, and that hotel had been humming along and I thought it was going to be great. And then I had to make some really difficult decisions. And I could choose to fight against that change or lean into that change. And I think that I used it to allow me to become a better leader and to roll up my sleeves and work alongside my people. I think you're seeing that a lot in the industry. I think response time, um, time to time to market, but from the time you list a position to the time you hire, that used to take 6 weeks, 4 weeks. It was all in the employer's court. And now, you're turning people around in 24 or 48 hours because you need them and they need you. I think we've had to become more nimble, more transparent, more um in some respects more accountable to the whole group of people that we serve. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. I really feel like and I think it'll change again in another 3 to 5 years. We'll see it go a different direction. We manage change for a living for the most part, if you think about it. No guest experience is the same, no two team members are the same. no two owners or brands are the same. So I think you have to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable a little bit to do what we do for a living. But yes, it has changed dramatically. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think sometimes change is good and it shakes things up in the right way. It is what we do with that change that I think makes a difference.
Talking about change, especially considering now that younger people are making up most of the travelers for especially business travel, do you think that the guest expectation and guest behavior is changing because younger generation may not prefer personal contact as much as the older generations did? They are the people who like prefer to text over a call and they are more tech savvy. So do you think the definition of hospitality is changing, the guest experience, guest expectations are changing along with it?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think it's interesting that you're right. As I'm in a hotel right now, and as I look across the lobby, I see people on their phones, and it's in this particular instance, it's interesting because the meeting space is being used to hire people, right? And so we have a new business coming into the market, and so you're seeing interviewees walk in, kind of, and yet we're full of guests. This is a very busy little hotel. um, I think that people still enjoy people. I don't think
Mhm.
it's as easy as it used to be. I think that that our front desk people, for example, are having to read people a little differently now, and that younger traveler may not want the checking it off the box list, right? They may want to grab their snack, and that may be more important to them and their Wi-Fi code, and they want to go to their guest rooms. um, Having said that, I still think that we're in a very people-centric business. I think for many of us, we've had to read people for many, many years. We're having to adapt a little faster. We're having to look at things a little differently. I do think that younger generation wants, and truthfully, I'll tell you, I have two of those younger generation-ish living in my home. I have a son that's 21 and a daughter that's 18. So they forced me to learn a lot about the next generation, which is wonderful and what a blessing. But yeah, I think a traveler, to me, has always been somebody special, because they're trusting us with their night stay, their experience, their, hard-earned dollar, whatever. Um, so while I think that we've had to adjust a little bit, I still think that this is a very people-centric business, and we're seeing it done differently and done well, and we're listening to it. Maybe we're a little faster with some things, maybe we're reading people a little better, maybe we're using data better in order to tell it, a little bit more about our customers. And I think those are very positive things. So yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
also, you talked that the hospitality may change into a completely different direction in the next 5 to 6 years. So, what do you think will be the future of hospitality? What can we expect the hospitality industry to move to which direction? How do you see?
Right. Well, I mean, listen, now there are way smarter people than me to ask that question too. But the things that I see, things that we talked about earlier, I think we're going to have to use technology to get more nimble, to get more engaged with our guest. Like this particular hotel uses a platform that where we're allowed to text our guest, right? And that interaction where a guest can ask you for something, and maybe they don't want to have come to the front desk, and maybe they don't want to have a conversation, but they still like that level of service. I think you're going to see more and more of that come down the road. I mean, look at what some of the brands have done with contactless check-in. Now the flip side of that is I think it's really hard if a stay goes wrong, or if a guest doesn't feel any sort of particular feeling. If there's no interaction, then it's much harder to connect with that guest, right? So how are we going to challenge ourselves in an era where it looks like we're going more and more that direction? More people are using mobile key, more people are using chat, more people are um, you know So how are we going to connect with our guests? How are we going to, oh, so sorry. How are we going to connect with our guests? But how are we going to make sure that that our guests are loyal and that they come back and that we, have that that we show that we're the best of what we do. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch and see what happens. I think the workforce is going to change. Again, I've got two kids that are in the workforce now, and travel is very different for them than it is for me. So I will have to adjust. We'll have to continue to adjust. We'll have to continue to use technology. But I also think that the people part of the business, if you hold that true to your heart, will still always be very important. And you'll find ways. You'll still find ways to connect with people. The leisure market has changed dramatically. I mean, people are moved and are doing much more experiential. It's not about the same things as when I was in the business early on. So, yeah, I think it will continue to force us to be aware and open to what our guests are telling us. I mean, truthfully, if we don't listen and we don't find ways to connect, we won't have any guests, and then we'll all be looking for something else to do. So, which I'm not interested in doing. Sure.
Okay. Talking about technology, you talked that many things have changed over the last few years. As you talked about the tipping culture using a QR code and text
Hmm.
message services and all that. Another thing that is always talked about is like AI and robotics. Like everywhere the hot topic is like robotics. Do you think that it will play an actually really important role in the future hospitality industry, or it is just a trend?
Well, truthfully, I hope it's just a trend because I love the people part of the business. But I mean, we just talked about you're going to have to embrace change, right? No, I mean, I think there will be opportunities and moments when that is useful. I think mobile check-in is great. I think it's an amazing feature, right? And if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have felt that same way about it. So I do think you'll start to see that. I don't ever see us really going to, a kiosk check-in. Maybe some hotels will. Maybe they will, and they'll do it beautifully. There's nothing like having a person to interact with to solve the problems or to help you or to make your experience better. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do think that I think it's coming. I think there'll be different, and while it might be a fad, some people will figure out how to do it really well. So it might be a fad that drives a group of people a specific direction. Um, but yeah, I don't I like there's components of it I like and understand. There's other components of it that I don't think there's anything that will ever replace the people part of this work. Just hospitality is it's a heart business for me. So
So, considering that, what do you think is the right balance between technology and people centricity in hospitality? Because now a lot of things, especially technological things, have gone from
mhm,
being nice to have to a basic necessity, like
sure.
Wi-Fi, room entertainment system, which is understandable. But do you think
Right.
where is the line where technology becomes kind of necessity to being like overdoing it? Like
Right.
robot cleaners, robot concierge. Do you think where is that line of the perfect balance between the two?
Well, I mean, truthfully, I think our guests are going to tell us where that line is. If we listen, which if there was anything that I'd invest in, it's we need to keep our listening ears on, right? Whether it be surveys or chat technology or standing in the lobby and talking to people, we need to listen. Our guests, I think, want to have a great experience, and you hear that more and more. It's not about a hotel stay. It's not about a hotel room. It's a great experience. And even if they're traveling on business, people don't want to feel lonely or locked in a hotel room. I think if we listen to our guests are going to help guide that conversation. Um, there definitely needs to be, I think, some thought behind it. Um, you know, I just I still feel like that. And I've said it, several times before today. Uh, I don't, for me, I know that the line is a different line than for the next generation. The next generation may want X, X, and X for technology. Um,
Mhm.
if we're listening, I think we'll be able to deliver on um, those experiences and blend that together. To your point, I mean, who like when I first went into the business, Wi-Fi was a you paid for it and it was a premium and it was, just something different that you did. Um and now, I could sell a hotel room without a bed before I could sell a hotel room without Wi-Fi, right? So they'd sleep on the floor
Exactly.
as long as you have good Wi-Fi. So, so I mean, look at how the industry has changed. I don't know what the new next. I think it's very interesting that you don't really. It's not the expectations, to have two guest phones anymore. I used to have two guest phones in the rooms, and now it's like, oh, okay, well, you can have one. Will that change? Will we go to where we don't have any guest phones in the rooms? I bet you're seeing some brands out there do it. There's some, safety risk and some security risk to that. But, who would have thought that we wouldn't have two and then we were going to go down to one and now Wi-Fi is everything. And so I think it really comes down to we're going to have to stay engaged with our guests, listen to our guests, make sure that we're really understanding what they want, and they'll help us set those boundaries. They'll help us also push the envelope when it's time. Right. I can't get this and I love this. I love the whole new connected room platform where I can check into a room and now I can turn on my Netflix. That makes my experience better because I might be in the middle of something at home and now I got to get back out on the road and travel. So I like those things. I think that and I think those were very guest driven. One thing I'll tell you about working with major brands and most of my I love boutique. I have a best friend that does boutique and I think he's amazing, but I love brands because I think they give you the infrastructure to keep your listening ears on and really listen to the guest and hear the guest and understand what they want out of an experience and then just keep challenging yourself to move forward and tailor it to what they're looking for. When you think about major brands, it's hard to broad scale roll something like that out, but they're pushing themselves too to really to listen and to do yeah, so I think it'll be really up to our guest and if we listen and we do things the right way, yeah, they'll let us know where the boundaries are. Some people may love to check in with a robot. Who knows? Some people will not. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. You also talked about brands. So, especially considering the new technologies or new fads that are coming, big brands have that ability to roll out these technologies on a massive scale. Do you think
Mhm.
this puts pressure on boutique hotels to go one step forward, or do you think the boutique hotels are a total different game and they will continue doing what they're doing, and people will like what they're doing?
Well, like I said, I have a best friend that does boutique and he only does boutique. And I tell him all the time he's a hotel snob, which is amazing. I love what he does for a living and creating an entire brand. Can you imagine waking up and saying, I'm going to pick all of this and I'm going to decide all of, and I'm talking, stationery down to logos to bedding, it's crazy. So I think that allows people to express their creativity. And there's just some people that are just made for that world. I've grown up in brands. I believe in brands for the nimbleness, for the quickness, for the ability to roll things out. So for me personally, we argue back and forth. I think it gives us a little bit of a competitive edge that we're allowed to, that we have the tools. It also allows for all these great visionary people who want um, who create the technology to come to us. They know where we are. They know what our brands are, and they're looking to partner with us. So it gives us, I think, a really great landscape to look out and say, this is going to be, that you have a lot of people knocking on the door saying, let me show you this, let me show you this. So yeah, for me, I don't know that your boutique hotels have that core infrastructure where people kind of know, recognize, understand, and then they're knocking on the door saying, let me show you the latest and greatest. So yeah, but I will tell you, my best friend would argue the other direction. He would say, I can make a decision faster and I don't have to wait for the brand to tell me. And, so it's what you love. You grow up and you decide what you love. So for sure.
And maybe we also need to hear the other side as well.
Sometimes, yes. I would say one thing I've learned in this business is partner with people who do not see things the same way as you. Always, 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 given the opportunity, partner with the guy that sees it totally different and find the ability to communicate with that person and connect with that person because they push you. They make you better. They make you think through things differently. So, yeah, I'll probably always have a best friend in boutique that says I could do it better for sure.
Anita, thanks for sharing your useful knowledge into the impact
Yeah.
of technology on the hospitality industry and the changing behavior of guests. On your profile, I saw that you talk about being servant leader. So I just got this quotation in my mind. It's
Right.
by Dave Ramsey. True leadership is servanthood. Put the interests of others at the center of your decision. What's your opinion on this quotation?
Yeah, well, I like Dave Ramsey. I do a lot of reading in that space. I am a sellout to servant leadership. I think it is the way to lead. Yeah, that resonates very much with me. I do think that servant leadership would teach you that it is about others before yourself. I see
Mhm.
the inverted sort of look of I'm here and my people, at least I lead in my team that way, are
Mhm.
above me, and it's my job to support them. So I think he's spot on. I think there's some really great reading that you can do. There's some really great studying that you can do. But truthfully, I think servant leadership, and I do think you need to study it. I think you need to understand the difference between positional leadership and servant leadership, and once you get into it, I think you'll commit. And that there's lots of different ways to lead. But for me personally,
Mhm.
I do think that putting other people's interest first matters. I chose to be in a business to where I am serving.
Mhm.
I'm not selling widgets. I'm selling a service. Truthfully, I'm selling an experience. So it aligns very much with what I think I do for a living. But it is a core component. Being a parent will teach you a lot about being a servant leader. So for a lot of different reasons. But when I think about my team and I think about the work that I've been able to do, and I think my best days are when I
Mhm.
get to watch other people realize their dreams, when I get to watch other people move into that next, role or move from city A to city B and take on a new challenge. There is a particular joy in growing people. And I don't
Mhm.
think if you're going to grow people for a living, which is really truly the work that I see myself doing probably the
Mhm.
best.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's another vehicle that gets me there any better or that I'm sold out to any more than servant leadership. I'm here to serve. I don't introduce myself when I go into my hotels as anybody's boss. I don't love that. I just say I'm your support person. I'm here to help you and to guide you and to be a resource for you to achieve the goals that you set for yourself or that we set together. Or
Mhm.
so yeah, I think it's a spot on quote, and I think that's the way to do it. I truly think that that it just resonates with me for so many different reasons, but also in so many different areas of my life. I like waking up and thinking about how I can make one of my general managers' lives better. And I'm not talking about just today. I'm talking about how do I grow them to the next level? Who wants to be the next RDO, or who wants to be the next, who wants to do task force and open new hotels, and what are the competencies that they need to get there, and how do they look in the mirror and grow themselves too. So it's very cyclical for me. I think it's a big circle, and if we do it right, it's the way to go. And I look at my work more about their successes than anything that I could do or put on paper.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your opinion. And one more thing,
Sure.
I have also noticed is that you are posting a lot about your teams, encouraging them to develop strong leadership skills. With
hmm
that in mind, what advice would you give to young individuals who are just starting their careers in the hospitality industry?
Yeah, so and we're seeing more of those folks come in the door, right? People that come in that don't have a lot of hospitality and sort of stumble into the building and think, well, this might be fun,
Mhm.
right? I think the key components, working hard, will always be a part of who the hospitality industry is. And I love that because there's so many great stories about well, for example, Fred Cerrone, who is our founder and leader, started off with pretty humble beginnings. And
Mhm.
so I think hard work and ethics and integrity and those things that anyone can do them. right? If you commit to those, then this business affords some great opportunity for you. The advice I think that I would give, and I'll truthfully tell you that my son became a houseman for me when he was 15, and quickly decided that that was not for him. He's now in the restaurant business, and he does a really great
Oh,
job there.
great.
But do the right thing even when nobody's looking. So integrity, work hard. Don't let anybody outwork you, right? Make sure that you raise your hand, volunteer, ask for more. Choose
Mhm.
to be a lifelong learner. Choose to learn and to conquer and to say, okay, I've got that figured out. What next? Right. Yeah, I would say just work ethic, really being a lifelong learner, wanting to invest and be better. If you invest in yourself and you push yourself, then this is an industry where you can go really far. You can own your own hotel company. You can own your own hotel. Takes a lot of sacrifice, takes a lot of hard work. But what I truly try to do with our young people,
Mhm.
the one thing I'll say, I think this generation, but I think most generations, you have to take the time to explain the whys and you have to listen. And I think you really need to ask some open-ended questions and really understand why the person is aligning. Why did they come? Why hospitality? That's one of the questions that I usually ask in an interview. What made this feel like a place you would want to come and work? Because I think if you listen underneath that, you can sort of understand sort of what their understanding is, what they're bringing to the table, and then you can help guide it a little better from there. We're finding more and more in our business that you're bringing people in that don't have a hotel experience, don't have hospitality experience, and that's a great thing. Get better at that, and then I think we win. So, yeah,
I appreciate your advice, and I believe that we all have some people or a role model that motivate us in a career, right?
sure.
So, could you please tell us about those who have had a significant impact on your career and any interesting stories about them?
Oh, okay, sure. Um, from the beginning for me, I mean, I stumbled into hospitality for sure, but my true beginnings, I think, really start with my dad. My dad was a minister and a military guy concurrently for about 25 years. And you talk about a guy that had really strong work ethic, that showed up to work every single day and yet still took
Yeah.
care of his family and did the things that he needed to do. So that was my start, at really understanding that you could work hard and achieve good things in your life. So I credit him completely. I had a mom that was a beautiful caretaker. I think I get my love for people from my mom. So I would say for me, it started with my parents. Um, my first, job, I was a payroll clerk for a timeshare company in Mississippi, which is kind of funny. So I really have been in hospitality for a very, very long time. But I had a great mentor that advocated for me to get that first job, and I remember going to 3 or 4 interviews, and nobody wanted to hire anybody with it without any experience. And she sat me down and she said, "Listen, just go in there and tell them you'll do any job that they ask you to do. And if you don't do it well, then they can let you go." And sure enough, I was very transparent. I was very honest and said, "If you'll just give me a shot, I think I can do this for you. I can do this very well." So that was my first real job. And so I
Mhm.
learned the value from her of being authentic and being transparent. And it's okay to do that. If it doesn't work out, I get it. But I've stayed true to that truthfully in my career. Um, from there, my first general manager, great guy, Midwesterner, really brilliant. I think a lot of people say, well, you move around in this industry and how you grow as you move up. This guy has been a GM in his hotel for, I want to say going on, I know at least 25 years, maybe even longer than that, showing up to the
Mhm.
same place and producing great results year after year after year takes some real
Mhm.
dedication and some real challenge. Anybody can move around and kind of be the next new shiny, but this guy has shown up and done a wonderful job. His wife is a director of sales, so it was so fun to grow up between that and watch that interaction, and just watch them kind of challenge each other. But they were good
Mhm.
to me. They let me learn the business from the best possible way. I really got to grow up in a great hotel, so I would say that mentor was really important to me. Um, And then my first true owner that I ever worked for, let me tell you, he let me make every mistake in the book, and he stood by me. And we, as young leaders, we make mistakes. It's okay. It is what I try to teach my team is it is okay to make a mistake. It's not okay not to own it. It's not okay not to fix it, but it is okay. There is such great learning in making mistakes. And so he let me make a lot of mistakes, but he trusted me and he empowered me, and he where our skill sets aligned very well. He was a developer and I wanted to do all the stuff. And he would, open an asset and say, here you go, figure it out. I'm going to buy this, we're going to sell this. Go figure it out. So he let me really learn my craft for him and his family, and he trusted me, and that's a big deal. I think in any business, when people trust you with their assets and allow you to help them grow their company, I truly consider it an honor. So he was a great mentor to me. And he wasn't he it was funny because he was pretty hands off about a lot of things, but he would come and sit in my office and we would spend an hour together just talking about the future and the vision, and sort of making some calculated risks together. And most of those
Mhm.
risks have paid off. He is doing phenomenal. When I went to work for him, he had two sons in middle school, and they're grown men
Mhm.
with families of their own now. So it's beautiful to get to look back at that and say I got to be a little piece of that. And he changed my life truthfully too. So he was a great mentor. Um, and then, these last few years, I've worked for some titans of the industry. I have worked for some really amazing, self-made, roll up your sleeves, get the job done, but hey, by the way, create an empire kind of guys, in Pigeon Forge
Mhm.
and Knoxville, and now with Hotel Equities. So yeah, I've been incredibly blessed. I don't think you get as far as you could in this industry if you don't align with some really amazing mentors, some people that'll push you,
Mhm.
some people that'll encourage you. And so I try to pay it forward. I really, really, really work hard with my team. I prefer encouragement. Sometimes you have to be the other side of that, but yeah, I've been incredibly blessed with amazing mentors. Externally, I've had some phenomenal people. I've gone through some leadership programs in my city. Um, I've had some really great folks that have just encouraged and supported me and allowed me to really, to not just see hospitality as hospitality, but kind of grow my leadership skills as well. So I've been able to graduate for some great programs, done some regional leadership programs, serve on some really amazing boards for a community college and a credit union in my city. So yeah, I think if you are open to it, people are you'd be surprised at how many times people are willing to mentor you. Now, there's a transparency that has to happen, right? You have to be honest and humble enough to say, "I'm not great at this. Can you teach me a little bit about this?" Or, "Hey, I'd like to support or volunteer, in your organization." But yeah, I've had some really amazing mentors. Would not be where I was if it wasn't for those folks, and could not thank them enough. And fortunately, they're all still part of my life.
Thanks for sharing those exciting stories, Anita. It's clear that your parents, in fact, all these individuals, have played a major role in shaping your career. Very impressive.
Oh, thank you. Well, they're a joy, and it was. I'm lucky. I'm a very blessed girl. I'd say it that way.
Anita, as a wife, beautiful mom, and working professional, finding a balance between work and family can be a big challenge for you. So, how do you manage and what activities you do in your free time?
Yeah, so balance, right? I have amazing children that have grown up with me in this business that understand what their mom does for a living. I have truly a phenomenal partner who my husband has the patience of Job. You do not get into this business and not have a patient significant other that understands that the phone's going to ring at 7 o'clock at night when you're at dinner, or you're going to have to go somewhere for 3 days and solve a problem. So I'm incredibly blessed. I'd go back to I have great. My mom is no longer with me, but my father is still here. I have a great husband, two great kids, great in-laws. So balance, right?
Mhm.
I said before, what I've found for me recently is that people get real. locked into, oh, okay, I have to have a balanced life, and it can just become another thing to check off the checklist, right? Balance for me looks like letting myself off the hook a little bit. Shutting down the computer at 7 o'clock at night and saying, okay, I'm not going to turn that back on till in the morning.
Mhm.
I'm a worker. I love to work. I actually, I really, I find joy in it, right? And especially if you do what you love, right? If you love what you do, you don't
Mhm.
work a day in your life. But I also need to be a great mom and wife and daughter and those kind of things. So I think trying to find times where I can and shut it off a little bit. I think offering myself a little bit of grace. I think for me, I mentioned earlier, trying to set aside the screen time and really take a little minute to grow myself and to invest in me a little bit. One thing I love about this company is that they encourage that. They really do encourage. I have a really great mentor, and I should have mentioned her, who is really our senior vice president of training and really her whole job is to help us get better, right? So all of our training programs and all of our onboarding programs, she's constantly analyzing that. And I had the honor of getting to go to my corporate office and spend a week with people that do what I do for a living, my peer group, and
Mhm.
what I learned out of that week is it's okay for me to take time and invest in me. I never saw that before as work. I always thought, okay, work is separate. When I get done with work, then I can have me time, right? Then I
Yeah.
can grow my career. I can do. And this company does a better job of making than a lot. I would say. I've had some really great experiences, but they just do a really nice job of saying it's okay to take those moments and invest in yourself, whether it be a questionnaire that you're completing so that we can sign you up for a leadership program, or whether it's peer group, mentoring, whatever. Um, I think it just you have to find your own way through it. My balance ebbs and flows. Some weeks I'm very balanced and it's all good. I get to work from home, and I honestly I get a ton of work done when I'm at home because I plug in really early and I'll stay really late. When I work out on the road, I have the work that I need to do, and then I have the work that I need to do. Right,
Yeah.
but you
Right.
have to find your way through it, and you have to give yourself a little grace, and you have to remember that it's a journey, right? And that we're all here. I don't um I don't want to be one thing. I don't want to be just an RDO. I want to be a great wife and a great mom and a great friend. My friends, unfortunately, probably get the shortest end of the stick, so I don't get to see them very often, but I stay in touch, right? Yeah. So I would say, I am finding my way through balance, and I'm in my early 50s, and I am still working on that piece of things. But offer yourself some grace and understand that it's a process, and that I think seeing when you're working too hard, seeing your triggers a little bit better, understanding when you start to get overwhelmed or overworked can be a really good tool in the toolbox too. So knowing yourself, I think, matters.
I was impressed to see how you gracefully manage the things. So much appreciation for you, Anita. Seriously.
Oh, well, thank you. Same to you guys. What a joy to get to spend some time with you guys and to get to share a little bit. And yeah, what an honor to be here. It's great to spend some time together today.
Thank you for sharing your valuable insight with us today.
Sure. Well, if I can ever do anything, you all reach back out. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for watching us. Hope you liked today's episode. See you with another guest. Till then, take care and goodbye.